Did we sleep together last night, Mark? Those 7 words hung in the air of Mark Wilson's small kitchen like a sharp, dangerous blade. His boss, Elaine Prescott, the woman he looked up to for 3 years. The boss who'd always been fair to him even though his schedule was complicated because he was raising his daughter alone, stood in front of him wearing borrowed clothes. Her face looked pale and unsure. Mark felt his world start to fall apart. How could one simple act of being nice lead to this moment that would change everything? If you're wondering how a good man's life could be turned upside down by helping someone who needed help, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories that explore the surprising results of our everyday choices. 24 hours earlier, Mark had been focused on just getting through another Friday. The reports for the past 3 months were due. His 7-year-old daughter Lily had a dance show that evening, and he was running on 4 hours of sleep. The life of a single dad working in business and money wasn't fancy, but he'd found his rhythm in the 3 years since Sarah's death. The office was buzzing with excitement for the company's yearly celebration. As a mid-level money analyst, Mark had helped get a major client that quarter, but parties weren't on his mind. He needed to finish his work, pick up Lily from her after-school program, get her to the show, and somehow manage to be both mother and father for another day. "Wilson, you're coming tonight, right?" Trevor from marketing called across the office spaces. "Free drinks at the loft. The whole boss team will be there." Mark shook his head. "Can't. Lily's dance show." Trevor rolled his eyes. "Man, you need to live a little. Being a dad doesn't mean your life is over." But to Mark, being Lily's dad meant his old life was over, and that was okay. She was all that mattered now. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patel, their elderly neighbor who sometimes watched Lily. "Don't worry about rushing. Taking Lily for ice cream after school. We'll have her ready for show by 6. For the first time that day, Mark breathed easier. Maybe he could stop by the celebration for just an hour. Elaine Prescott, his direct boss, had supported his flexible schedule when he'd needed it most after Sarah's passing. The least he could do was show his face and thank her for the support. The loft was packed with his co-workers when Mark arrived. The music pulsed as he walked through groups of people already loosened by alcohol and the freedom of Friday evening. He spotted Elaine at the bar looking unusually casual in a simple black dress instead of her usual neat suits. "Mark, you made it," she called, waving him over. At 42, Elaine was only a few years older than Mark, but her position as finance director put her 2 levels above him in the company ladder. She'd always kept professional boundaries while being understanding of his situation. "Just for a bit," he explained. "Lily's show is at 7. The famous Lily," Elaine smiled. "I feel like I know her from all your stories." "How old is she now?" 7 going on 17. Mark laughed. "She told me this morning that my choice of breakfast cereal was tragically basic." Elaine's laugh was real. "Smart girl takes after her dad." She signaled the bartender. "1 drink before you go to celebrate landing the Westridge account." 1 drink turned into conversation about the company's future, Elaine's vision for the department, and eventually more personal matters. Mark rarely spoke about Sarah with coworkers, but something about the evening, perhaps the relief of finishing a difficult quarter or the unusual chance to hang out, loosened his guard. "It'll be 3 years next month," he found himself saying. "Sometimes I still reach for her side of the bed in the morning." Elaine's eyes softened. "I can't imagine. You've done an amazing job with Lily, though. Sarah would be proud." Mark checked his watch and jumped up. "I need to go. It's 6:30. "Of course," Elaine said, standing too quickly and swaying slightly. Mark noticed then how many empty glasses sat in front of her. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Fine," she insisted, though her eyes couldn't quite focus. "Just celebrating a little too much. The divorce was finalized yesterday." Mark hadn't known she was going through a divorce. Elaine was very private about her personal life. "I should call you a cab," he said, reaching for his phone. "No." Her response was too loud, drawing looks from nearby co-workers. She lowered her voice. "I mean, I'm fine. I just need some air." But when she took a step, Her ankle rolled and Mark caught her elbow to steady her. "Let me help you outside," he insisted. "We'll get you a ride outside." The cool evening air seemed to make Elaine worse rather than better. She leaned heavily against him, her professional way completely gone. "No cabs," she mumbled. "Don't want anyone to see me like this, especially not the team." Mark checked his watch again. 6:40. Lily would be looking for him in the audience soon. His heart raced with the impossible choice. Leave his boss in a possibly dangerous situation or miss his daughter's performance. He made a quick decision and called Mrs. Patel. "I'm so sorry," he explained. "Work emergency. Can you possibly take Lily to the show? I'll meet you there if I can." Mrs. Patel, bless her heart, agreed immediately. "Don't worry, Beta. I'll record everything if you're late." With that settled, Mark helped Elaine into his car. "I'll take you home," he said. "Where do you live?" Elaine gave an address in Westlake, a fancy neighborhood about 20 minutes away. As Mark drove, she grew quieter, staring out the window. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "This is unprofessional." "It's okay," Mark assured her. "Everyone has rough days." 12 years, she said softly. 12 years, and he left me for his 26-year-old assistant. Such a cliché, right? She laughed bitterly. "I gave everything to my career because he said he supported my ambition. Turns out he was just waiting for someone who wouldn't outshine him." Mark didn't know what to say. This was a side of Elaine he'd never seen. Vulnerable. Hurt. Human. When they reached her address, a fancy townhouse with a neat front garden, Elaine fumbled with her purse. "I can't find my keys," she said, panic rising in her voice. "They must be. I don't know where they are." Mark helped her search, but the keys weren't in her purse or pockets. "Could they be at the bar?" he suggested. Tears filled Elaine's eyes. "I can't go back there. Everyone will see." Mark checked the time again. 7:10. Lily's show had already started. He made another difficult decision. "Let me take you to my place," he offered. "You can sleep it off and we'll figure things out in the morning." By the time they arrived at Mark's modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, Elaine was barely awake. He helped her inside and settled her on the living room couch, placing a glass of water and some aspirin on the coffee table. He wrote a quick note explaining where she was in case she woke up confused, then rushed back to his car. He made it to the elementary school auditorium just as the final group was performing. Lily's face lit up when she spotted him slipping into the back row next to Mrs. Patel, who patted his hand understandingly. After the show, Lily bounced over to him in her tutu. "Daddy, did you see me? I remembered all the steps." "You were amazing, sweetheart," he said, hugging her tightly. "I'm so proud of you." "Where were you?" she asked. "You missed my solo." The disappointment in her voice cut through him. "I'm sorry, Lily Pad. Someone at work needed help. But Mrs. Patel recorded it, and we'll watch it together tomorrow." "Okay." Lily nodded, but her earlier excitement had faded. Mark felt the familiar guilt that came with every parenting compromise. When they got home, Mark quietly checked on Elaine, who was sound asleep on the couch. He covered her with a blanket, then guided Lily upstairs for her bedtime routine, grateful that his boss hadn't woken up. How would he explain her being there to his daughter? After Lily was asleep, Mark prepared the guest room, then gently woke Elaine. "Hey," he said softly. "There's a more comfortable bed upstairs if you want." Elaine blinked at him in confusion before recognition came. "Oh God, Mark. I'm so sorry." "It's okay," he assured her. "The guest room is ready. There's a new toothbrush in the bathroom and some of Sarah's old clothes that might fit you if you want to change." Elaine looked embarrassed, but allowed him to help her upstairs. "Thank you," she whispered before closing the guest room door. Mark finally collapsed into his own bed around midnight, exhausted from the emotional ups and downs of the day. His last thought before falling asleep was that tomorrow would be awkward, but at least everyone was safe. Morning arrived with the sound of Lily's cartoons downstairs. Mark woke up suddenly, remembering their house guest. He quickly dressed and headed to the kitchen where he found Lily at the table with a bowl of cereal, completely absorbed in her show on the tablet. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Sleep well." "Aha," she replied without looking up. Mark started the coffee maker, wondering if he should check on Elaine or let her sleep. The decision was made for him when he heard footsteps on the stairs. Elaine appeared in the kitchen doorway wearing Sarah's old Yale t-shirt and sweatpants, her face cleaned of makeup, and her hair pulled back. She looked younger, softer, and super uncomfortable. "Good morning," Mark said, trying to sound casual. "Coffee, please," she replied, her voice rough. Her eyes darted to Lily, who had finally noticed the stranger in their kitchen. "Lily, this is Ms. Prescott. She works with me," Mark explained. "She wasn't feeling well last night, so she stayed in our guest room." Lily studied Elaine with the honest curiosity of a child. "Are you feeling better now?" Elaine managed to smile. "Yes, thank you. You must be Lily. Your dad talks about you all the time." "He does." Lily seemed pleased by this information. "Absolutely. He says you're the smartest kid in your class." Lily beamed, then returned to her cartoon. Interest in the adult visitor already fading. Mark handed Elaine a mug of coffee. "There's aspirin on the counter if you need it." "Already found it, thanks." She took a sip of coffee, then lowered her voice. "Can we talk privately for a minute?" Mark nodded. "Lily, we'll be right back." "Stay here." "Okay, whatever," Lily replied, caught up in her show. Mark led Elaine to the small home office off the living room and closed the door. "Mark, I am so sorry about last night," Elaine began immediately. "That was completely unprofessional and not okay. I put you in a terrible position." "It's okay," he assured her. "Everyone has rough moments." Elaine looked around the office, taking in the family photos on the desk and the children's artwork pinned to the bulletin board. Her eyes stayed on a picture of Mark with Sarah, both of them laughing on a beach somewhere. "She was beautiful," Elaine said softly. "Yes, she was," Mark agreed, the familiar pain in his chest whenever he thought of Sarah. Elaine turned to him, her expression serious. "Did we sleep together last night, Mark?" The question hit him like someone had punched him. "What? No. Absolutely not." Elaine's shoulders relaxed with relief. "I'm sorry. I don't remember much after the bar. I woke up in different clothes in a strange bed and I panicked." "Nothing happened," Mark said firmly. "You were drunk. I helped you to the guest room. That's all." "Thank God," she whispered. Then more strongly, "I would never want to make our working relationship complicated like that. You're one of my best analysts, and I respect you too much to cross that line." Mark nodded, but something in her words hurt in a way he hadn't expected. Of course, nothing had happened. He wouldn't take advantage of someone in that state. But the relief in her voice suggested that the very idea of being with him was something to be feared. "I should call a cab," Elaine said, breaking the awkward silence. "And we should probably not mention this at work." "Of course," Mark agreed. "But there's no rush. Have some breakfast first." "Lily and I usually make pancakes on Saturdays." Elaine hesitated, then nodded. "That sounds nice, actually. If you're sure it's not too much trouble." "Not at all." Breakfast was surprisingly comfortable. Lily, always eager for an audience, entertained them with stories from school while they ate. Elaine laughed at all the right moments and asked thoughtful questions that made the 7-year-old happy. "You're not as scary as Daddy said," Lily announced as she finished her pancakes. Mark nearly choked on his coffee. "Lily, I never said Miss Prescott was scary. You said she makes grown men cry in budget meetings," Lily replied innocently. Elaine raised an eyebrow at Mark, who felt his face grow hot. "I may have exaggerated a little when explaining why I needed to prepare for a presentation," he admitted. To his relief, Elaine laughed. "It's okay. I build that reputation on purpose. It makes my job easier." After breakfast, Mark found Elaine's missing keys in the side pocket of her purse. She changed back into her dress from the night before, folding Sarah's borrowed clothes neatly. "Thank you," she said at the door. "For everything. Not many people would have been so kind." "Anyone would have done the same," Mark replied. "No," Elaine said firmly. "They wouldn't have. Trust me." She hesitated, then added, "I'm sorry you missed part of Lily's show because of me." "It's okay. Mrs. Patel recorded it." Still, Elaine looked at him closely. "You're a good man, Mark Wilson. Sarah was lucky to have you." Before he could respond, she turned and walked to her waiting rideshare car. Monday morning arrived with a knot of worry in Mark's stomach. How would things be with Elaine at the office? Would there be awkwardness? Would others somehow sense that something had changed? He didn't need to worry. When he passed Elaine in the hallway, she gave him the same professional nod she always did. In the department meeting, she was her usual efficient self with no sign that anything unusual had happened between them. It was exactly what should happen, Mark told himself. They were adults who had handled an uncomfortable situation in a mature way. Case closed. But something had shifted inside him. Elaine's question, "Did we sleep together?" kept replaying in his mind along with her clear relief at his denial. It had awakened something he'd kept buried since Sarah's death. The realization that others saw him only as a dedicated father and reliable employee, not as a man who might be wanted. For 3 years, he'd poured everything into being Lily's rock, into keeping their life together. He'd set aside his own needs so completely that he'd forgotten they existed. Elaine's question had cracked that carefully built wall. The week passed normally, but Mark found himself noticing things about Elaine he'd missed before. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when thinking hard. How her voice changed slightly when she was excited about an idea. The quiet skill with which she handled difficult situations. On Friday, a company-wide email announced that Elaine had been promoted to Vice President of Finance starting immediately. The office buzzed with the news. "She deserves it," Trevor commented as they waited for the elevator. "Prescott's brilliant. Cold as ice, but brilliant." Mark wanted to defend her, to say she wasn't cold at all, but realized he couldn't without revealing their shared experience. That evening, as he was packing up to leave, his phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. "Would you and Lily like to celebrate my promotion with ice cream? No alcohol involved. I promise. Elaine." Mark stared at the message, his heart racing unexpectedly. This wasn't a work invitation. This was personal. He typed back, "Lily would love that. So would I." Ice cream led to a Saturday at the Children's Museum, which led to Sunday picnics in the park. Within months, Elaine had become a part of Mark and Lily's weekend routines. "Are you and Miss Elaine boyfriend and girlfriend?" Lily asked one evening as Mark tucked her in. "We're friends," Mark answered carefully. "She makes you smile like in the pictures with Mommy." Lily noticed with a child's honest truth. Mark couldn't deny it. Something was growing between them. Something unexpected and fragile. 6 months after that important night, Elaine invited Mark to dinner alone. At a quiet restaurant overlooking the city, she reached for his hand across the table. "That morning when I asked if we'd slept together, I was terrified of the answer," she admitted. "Not because I didn't want it to be true, but because I was afraid I'd ruined something before it could begin." "And now?" Mark asked. "Now I'm grateful every day for your kindness that night. It showed me the kind of man you are." She squeezed his hand. "I've fallen in love with you, Mark Wilson, with you and Lily both." Mark felt tears fill his eyes. "Sarah will always be part of me," he said. "But I've learned my heart has room for more love." 1 year later, they married in a simple ceremony with Lily as flower girl. As they exchanged vows, Mark marveled at how one difficult night, one question that had at first broken his view of himself, had eventually rebuilt his life into something beautiful and unexpected. Sometimes the moments that seem to break us are actually setting us free.